I mean, it's all the things, y'all. This next conversation is all about turning a house into a home with unique touches that reflect you. Now, if you know me, you know I'm into home improvements, redecorating all the home, everything home decor. I absolutely love it. Coming to the stage is Essence columnist, I have to say this right, Metoya Z. Webb.
It's Metanoia. Hi, y'all.
I want to say that right.
Metanoia.
Metanoia. It sounds so much like Latoya, but Metanoia.
Metanoia. It's phonetic.
Awesome.
Matching two in our white.
Got that white together. Yes, mama.
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Y'all looking beautiful out here today. I'm very excited to be on this stage. My name is Metanoia Webb. I am the creator of Sacred Spaces, which is a recurring column in Essence magazine that really just centers and celebrates the Black home. We have some heavy hitters that we're gonna bring out on stage today. Some that I've known and I've worked with and featured before, so it's kind of like a homecoming and a reunion, and I'm super excited to introduce them to y'all. So let's just kick this off. Please welcome interior designer and founder of Studio 7 Design Group, Kai Williamson. Kai, where you at? Make some noise for Kai, y'all. Hey. Next, we have award-winning chef and owner of Compare La Pen restaurant, Nina Compton. Come on out, Nina. Welcome to the stage. And last but not least, the incomparable design duo, Kiana Handy and Janai Handy, co-founders of Black Market Vintage. I wanted to call Kiana Stewart, but then I realized they got married. I knew them before they were married. Welcome to the stage, ladies.
Testing.
All right, you on.
Hello.
Sound is on. How y'all doing?
So we're gonna get into this conversation. Look at this beautiful panel we have here. Just take a moment and clap it up for the panel. These beautiful women. So starting with you, Kai, tell us a little bit about the role interior design plays in your life today.
Interior design is really the cornerstone of my professional life, and I have been so grateful to grow Studio 7 Design Group, which is a high-end firm that services commercial and residential design. I have a team of 10 amazing designers, all women, and we design projects all over the country, from our recently featured space in Architectural Digest for Kevin Hart, and up to 50,000 square foot projects in luxury homes all over the country. So that is my business and my purpose, to enhance the world through an aesthetic lens.
Awesome. How about you, Nina? Talk to me about the importance it plays in your life.
I think interior space definitely sets the tone for example, for my restaurants, is about making people feel relaxed. It's also about the ambience, beautiful music, so everybody can have a good time, and of course, food. The sensory overload of smelling and seeing and tasting is a very big thing for us, but also in my house, it's about a very zen moment of somewhere where I walk in and I'm very relaxed. So it's very important to me.
Yeah, thank you. Kiana?
Hi. So my wife and I run a vintage/antique concept space in Brooklyn, New York. We specialize in vintage objects from the Black diaspora. And so it's really interesting to design with objects in mind, and not just objects, but the archive, the Black archive, the Black home throughout history and throughout time as well. And it's not possible to think about the work of creating spaces that mean something to us without looking backward and looking to the spaces that we've held dear. So that's how interiors really sits at the crux of the work that we do.
Anything you want to add?
No, that was perfect.
Okay, so Kai, how would you describe your signature design style and kind of what did the journey look like for you to find that style? Because it's not easy. You have to identify like what aesthetic really is true to you. And so talk to us about what that looked like.
I actually want to talk about deconstructing the need for a signature style. Because Studio 7 Design Group is here to celebrate the journey and to elevate the vision of our clients. And so ultimately the client aesthetic is really what drives the signature aesthetic of the project. So we are not too tied to any one concept, form, or feature such that we can't be flexible to hear their journey, like understand their lives. Like we are so blessed to be creating the spaces where people grow their families and their businesses. So it's not about what Studio 7 wants, it's about us elevating. And that journey was one that was criticized because there are many designers who have a signature.
Yes.
And that is amazing. If I had to give one signature element, it's always wallpaper. Wallpaper,
Okay.
for sure.
I mean, before we move on, because I think you really flipped that question on its head, and I love your perspective around it. Like, talk to me about how you get your clients to even get to a point of identifying of what they like, what feels comfortable for them, because ultimately those are the spaces that they have to live, work, and play in, so they do need to serve them. So how do you coach them along the way?
Listening is very important. You allow like everyone to, we live in a world with so much imagery. We have social media, like everyone's always DMing me like inspiration. And I think hospitality really drives a lot of the spaces that clients enjoy because they're public spaces. So very often you get a lot of references to hotels and restaurants that people enjoy. They say, I want this feel. So we ask them to send us a ton of images, and our job is to find commonalities and repeated themes that speak to them, like color palettes and elements and scale. And we just have a very open conversation. So whatever you love, let's make sure it works in your space. So it's definitely built on just very transparent conversation, and we don't come in and like, we are the designers, you must do as I say. Right. So it's just being really collaborative and being kind in the process, understanding that for a lot of us, we are learning what interior design is. We are first generation that are able to afford that type of service. So it's definitely a space where we allow the client to guide the conversation, and then we show them why they paid us.
Right.
You know, here's what you can do here.
I love that. You help them to execute the vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So Nina, as a chef, you already know that adding kind of your own signature flair to everything is key to what you really create. So talk a little bit about how the unique look and feel of a space can influence the experience you have in that space, specifically in your restaurants.
So I think that's a very important note, is about tying the whole experience for the guest is very important. It's about making people understand where the origin of this dish is from. You know, so there's a lot of things that I bring from the Caribbean, you know, a lot of clay plates, or, you know, we make wooden bowls and we use those things. So we're trying to bring my experiences as a child and bring that on the plate. So I'm kind of transporting people to the Caribbean as they come to the restaurant to dine, whether it's through music or the food. But, you know, there's just some things I try to tie in. And also living in New Orleans is such a beautiful place where people really appreciate food and culture and everything else. So it makes my job super easy in doing those things, you know, bringing really big flavors. And the appreciation, it makes me feel good as a chef because I get so much love, you know, and a confidence, you know, to do more and to bring more to the plate, not just on the food, but you know, just the aesthetics. And that's also with the cocktails too. We're a big cocktail community here, so we have beautiful cocktails that are paired with different rums. And we have a very diverse group behind the bar from Belize, from Antigua, from New Orleans, and they're all bringing their own flair. So it's about individuality, but bringing that all together where people are like, wow, this is so much fun. And it's about having fun in the space. That's really important too.
And I love the preservation of Caribbean culture. You know, even the mention of people from Belize and different parts of the diaspora, just making sure that's included into the experience as well.
It is, because New Orleans has so many influences from the Caribbean, so we have to, you know, give a nod to that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Kiana and Janai, you've beautifully paired your love of, you know, design for storytelling with storytelling. How can telling a story through decor really enhance someone's space?
I love this question because in dealing with objects and material culture, we're not just dealing with the tactile, like the object itself, but the stories, the histories that are passed on and that have contributed to that object. Yeah. And so storytelling is at the crux of what we do, but I think every beautiful space, every space that's meaningful to a client, an inhabitant, it's unique to them. It's special to them. And every project has an anchor, whether it's a residential project or it's a set design project that we're working on, a production, and we're always thinking about what is the story about these folks that we're trying to tell through the objects. Yeah. When folks walk into this space, what do you want them to know about who you are, how you have arrived here, what your family is like, etc. Yeah. So it's not just dealing with the objects, but what lives behind that.
Yeah, and definitely to add to that, when we talk about storytelling and interior design, it really is about being intentional. So what decisions are you making? Are you making them in concert with all the other? Because I always tell folks with interior design, you make hundreds of decisions. Yeah. So are you actually being intentional about all the design and aesthetic decisions that you're making? Mm-hmm. And I also like to say that when it comes to interior design and curation and storytelling, as Black people, we have been doing this in our spaces. When you think about the graduation pictures, the diplomas in the living room, like that's your trophy room. Yeah. We may not call it that. That might be my mom's living room. Right. But it's your trophy room. So it's just like kind of recontextualizing and putting some respect on the name of some of the ways that we've already been doing interior designs as a people.
I love that. I love that because we don't talk about that enough. You know, maybe we didn't know how to commercialize it, you know, and market and profit off of it. But I think that that's why sacred spaces is so important, because when our parents were doing that for us, when we were coming up, it was just home. It was just mommy's living room or grandma's like den. But you're absolutely right. The things, the objects, everything that we were interacting with in those spaces really represented us and our culture and our stories. So thank you for adding that, because that's critical. So for those people who want to liven up their space but don't really know where to start, I was having a conversation with someone backstage about this. Like, what are some of the first steps that they can take? Because it could feel daunting, you know? It's like, where do I begin? It's overwhelming. Like, where should they start?
I'll start with that one. So one of my favorite kind of tricks of the trade to encourage is to buy a larger rug. Your rug is the foundation for your space. All of the furniture, ideally, goes onto the rug. Not just the front half, not just the side. If we can get all of the furniture, don't you want all of the house on the foundation? So if we can get all of the furniture onto the rug and not feeling like the rug as a foundation has to have every color that's in the palette of the space, but I think focusing a little more on texture. So I would say start with your rug and then maybe move on to drapery, AKA curtains, but we call it drapery, but really just looking at, so you have this foundation and then you have your kind of shield, right? And so looking at where your drapery can hang a little higher. We want to be as close to the ceiling as possible so that our rooms feel large and expansive, but also make sure the drapery is right at the floor. We don't want it to be high water. You all remember high waters? We don't want that. So just making sure the drapery is dusting the floor and that it's as close to the ceiling line as possible. Those are some of the elements, these larger scale format, where you start to feel luxury in a space.
Love that. How about you, Nina?
I'm taking all the notes.
Me too.
Because I think, for me, when I think of my house, when I come home, it is my sanctuary. It is my safe space. It is my sacred space. And it's really about having those cool, calming, elements where it's not cluttered. It feels clean. It feels organized. Running restaurants is the same thing. It's about being organized and being clean and being able to clean easily without it being this daunting thing of like, oh my God, I gotta clean today. But having things where everything has its place, everything goes back in that place. I'm speaking like our chef right now, but it's really about keeping everything organized and clean for me mentally. That's how I can, go through my day. And it's the same thing at home and also in my restaurants.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. How about you two?
Okay, this is a tough one, but I do think it's important to, sometimes when folks are designing spaces on their own or really don't know where to start, it kind of feels like you are reinventing the wheel, like you are starting from scratch.
Right.
And we have all been in spaces that have felt good and looked good to us, that have been conducive to the way we wanted to live our lives. and we have been in spaces that have not. So I would think about what are your points of reference? Is it your family home? Is it parents' home? Is it a restaurant that you've been in? Is it a shop that you've been in? What is it about those spaces that is making you feel, or that has made you feel like, you know, I could duplicate this at home, or I like this, I vibe with this. This is representing something for me. Think about what those spaces are or are not.
Right.
And then from there, that's your starting point. So you're not really reinventing the wheel, but you have a starting place, like a grounding that you can then draw some inspiration from to then move forward.
Right. So people shouldn't just run out and go buy furniture.
Don't just run out and go buy furniture. Don't do that.
I mean, I'm sure West Elm will love that, but and it's funny because my tip would be before you even buy anything, and as antique collectors, I always encourage folks, go into your attics, go into your garages, go into the trunk of papers from elementary school. Find something that you already have that helps to tell your story. Find a family heirloom, a family photo. Let that be the anchor in a certain space or for your whole space. But find something that you already have that already has meaning to you and let that be the anchor. And then you can buy pretty things to go with it, but start at home and then expand.
Yeah. And just to kind of go to the beginning with each of you, like, how did you end up in this space? You mentioned, Kai, that, you know, it's something that felt like almost off limits to our culture, although we were the originators of it and didn't necessarily put a brand or name behind it. But what made you feel confident enough to say, I want to pursue a career in this field?
I love that question. It was a very non-linear journey for me. After graduate school, I was actually CEO of a nonprofit for 5 years. So I was in nonprofit management, but I always knew, like I said earlier, my purpose was to enhance the world through an aesthetic lens. And it is truly an honor to be able to create in these spaces. So you have to believe in your ability, but understand what the market is commanding, right? Because you can have great ideas and great taste, but taking that to a business and then scaling a business, those are very different conversations. So my love of fashion was really the genesis for me because fashion is about composition.
Right.
And so understanding how you compose, for me, that I was able to translate that into interiors, but then I also had to study a lot to learn about interior design because we don't always differentiate between interior decorating and interior design. Interior design has a lot of technical interfacing, and if you want to be an interior designer, you have to make sure you have the technical skill set if you want to exist in projects of scale, because when we show up, we need to show up knowledgeable in these rooms. There are not a lot of people who look like us. I am constantly the only woman and the only black person in a room. And so it's about educating yourself about what is required for how you want to exist in this industry, and then know that the opportunities are really endless when you're willing to do the work and to show up as yourself.
And Nina, I know a little bit of your story. Amen to that, right?
She is like on fire. You're amazing. You really are. And, you know, I commend you. I think that, you know, for you to go into a space that nobody exists and to own it, I tip my hat to you.
Thank you, and same to you. I've been going to her restaurants. I'm like, oh my gosh, Nina's here.
But Nina, talk to us a little bit about your journey, you know, and how you kind of stumbled into this world of culinary arts.
I stumbled it in a very happy way. I love cooking, and I've been doing it for almost 25 years, and it never feels like work. I wake up every day and I am excited and pumped to go into the restaurants and to be with my staff. But I think for me, it's coming to New Orleans, being from the Caribbean, I really do feel at home because not only because of the community, but also I feel connected. I feel connected to the people. I feel connected to the culture. I feel connected to the food. And that says a lot for me to create and become organic and to be interwoven into this fabric. It's a good feeling, and I'm truly blessed and grateful to have, you know, 3 restaurants here in New Orleans and to have the support from everybody. It makes my job easier, and to see, you know, so many young chefs from all different backgrounds. We have Chef Serene that is cooking Senegalese food on Magazine Street. Go check it out if you're here. Go to Fritai, he's cooking beautiful Haitian food. You know, you have Queen Trini that's cooking Trinidadian food. You have Prince from Addis Nola cooking Ethiopian food. So New Orleans is a very inclusive community that makes us want to do the best
Yeah.
and represent, and to have all these different cultures and cuisines here, it's amazing. And so definitely eat out. You will definitely gain some weight, but that's what we're here for. So
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Go ahead, Kiana.
Sure. So we founded our business 10 years ago, and for us, I mean, I grew up loving spaces where I could find unique objects. And it's funny, I found my way to the world of vintage and antiques through interiors. So as a young person, I was trying to like curate my bedroom, and my mother loves those spaces as well. And so I was going to the thrift store with my mother. I was going to the antique store. We were picking stuff off the side of the road with one another and bringing it home and trying to find a new way to envision it. And so I found my way to the world of objects and material culture by looking for a unique way to curate my own space. So they've always been interconnected. And when we founded our business, we were dealing with objects themselves with long storied histories. And then there became a point where we were like, there's a gap here.
Yes.
Like folks not only want the objects and
Right.
want interesting things for their spaces, but they also want knowledge around and to contract out support around how those objects live in their spaces as well. So at that point we started taking on production projects and set design and then interior design from there. But it was really around the need of the folks around us, the community, who, again, there was a need, a desire for the objects, but then this further knowledge about how to support them being curated in their spaces.
Definitely. And I have 3 other sisters. So growing up, I hated vintage. I didn't want hand-me-downs. I want new things. I don't want that. I got to vintage because I met my wife. So that's where we're like, okay, we'll go to thrift stores. I love vintage. This is so much fun. And then 10 years later, here we are. But I say that in jest because it's also just being open to what is coming in front of you and making sure that you have a really clear intentionality around what you want to do and the impact you want to leave on the world. I started as an investment banker, then a professor, and now as an entrepreneur. And so just being sure about the intention of making a mark for Black people in this world has really just brought us to this place.
Amen, amen. I can talk to y'all all day about this subject matter because it really means that much to me and you all as well. But I'm getting the signal that we have to wrap. So before we go, can you just take a sec and give people your social drops so they know how to find you, follow you, keep up with your work? Go ahead, Kai.
Absolutely. I am at Kai Studio 7. That's spelled Kai Studio and the number 7, and also at Studio 7 Design Group.
Awesome.
Nina Compton, that's my Instagram. That's the only one I really use. My restaurants, Compella Pen, Babs Nola, and Nina's Creole Cottage. It's all the name with the @sign.
And you can find Black Market Vintage on IG at BLK MKT Vintage. If you're in Brooklyn, we have a storefront in Brooklyn as well in Bed-Stuy.
Awesome.
And then very lastly, if you are at a local bookstore or online, you can also find us in book form.
Yes.
Thank you.
Coming October.
It comes out in October. You can order now. God bless you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.